You're listening to Deep Rest. Take a deep breath, slow down, and let sleep carry you. I'm David, and tonight I'll guide you into the world of dreams.
They say even the strongest man alive can feel the moment the universe itself bends toward him. And as Hercules stood atop the rolling hills of Tiryns, the amber light of the late afternoon sun stretching endlessly across the landscape, he felt it like a whisper against his very bones, a subtle, undeniable pull that stirred in his chest and resonated with a rhythm older than memory, older even than the mountains themselves, as though the land had been waiting for him to arrive. And though he had faced monsters, kings, and the wrath of gods, never before had he felt the quiet weight of destiny pressing so palpably against him, carrying the unmistakable promise that today everything would change. The wind rustled the leaves of olive trees scattered across the hills, brushing against his skin with a gentle insistence, mingling the earthy scent of the soil with the faint sweetness of wild thyme. And Hercules inhaled deeply, grounding himself in the present, even as his mind swirled with visions of the unknown. For though he was no stranger to adventure, no mortal or god could have prepared him for the resonance that hummed now beneath his feet, a vibration that traveled through the soles of his sandals and into the very marrow of his legs, coiling like a living thing, awakening instincts he had long relied on but never trusted fully. And as he surveyed the valley below, its streams glinting like molten silver in the fading light, he could feel the subtle shift in the air, a tightening of the invisible threads that bound his fate. And he knew, without knowing how, that this evening the ordinary world of hills, forests, and villages was dissolving before him, giving way to a path carved by forces far greater than any mortal eye could see. And though his muscles tensed instinctively, ready for confrontation, he was not afraid. For Hercules had learned early that courage was not the absence of fear, but the steady acceptance of what must be faced. And yet, even as he accepted it, the pulse beneath his feet quickened, almost like a heartbeat, echoing in rhythm with his own, and he sensed in that vibration a voice older than the tales sung by bards, a voice neither cruel nor kind, but patient, deliberate, calling him forward into a journey he had only glimpsed in dreams. Dreams fragmented and fleeting, yet vivid enough to leave him unsettled in ways even his strength could not soothe. The hills began to slope more sharply as he descended, each step deliberate and heavy, his eyes scanning the horizon where the first hints of twilight painted the mountains in hues of deep purple and fire. And somewhere in that twilight, he could see the faint shimmer of a path not marked by men, but by time itself, a trail woven through the land as if by the hands of destiny, leading to a place whispered about in old songs and fragmented legends, a place said to test the very essence of those brave or foolish enough to walk its length. And Hercules felt his heart beat faster at the sight, both with anticipation and a deep, unspoken understanding that he would not turn back. For to turn back was to deny the very power that coursed through his veins, a power born of gods, yet tempered by humanity, a duality that defined him more profoundly than any mortal could imagine. The valley below widened into a rolling expanse dotted with clusters of trees and rocky outcrops, and as he moved forward, the shadows stretched longer, darkening not just the land, but the space within him. The silent, endless corridors of thought, where memories of his past victories, failures, and lessons learned intertwined, reminding him that every feat he had accomplished had led to this threshold, and every loss had prepared him for the resilience required ahead. And as he approached a small grove of ancient oaks, their gnarled branches arching like the arms of giants, he paused once more to inhale, letting the scent of damp earth and the faint tang of mountain air fill his senses, grounding him before the inevitable. For he knew that whatever waited beyond the grove was unlike anything he had faced. A challenge, not merely of strength or skill, but of mind, heart, and soul. And even as he steeled himself, the wind shifted, carrying the faintest echo of voices not of this world, soft and melodic, entwined with the rustle of leaves. And though he could not understand the words, he felt their meaning as clearly as he felt his own pulse, a guidance and warning intertwined, urging him forward while cautioning restraint. For heroes often find themselves tested not just by foes, but by the very forces that shape their destiny. He stepped forward, his boots pressing into the soft soil, each movement deliberate, and the grove seemed to open around him, the air thickening with a presence that was at once welcoming and demanding, a paradox that only heightened the sense that Hercules stood on the threshold of something monumental, a moment where history itself would take notice, where the decisions of one demigod could ripple across realms seen and unseen. And though he did not speak, the silence was filled with anticipation, the kind that makes even the strongest hearts quicken. For in that moment, Hercules was not merely a man or a hero. He was a force of fate in motion, poised to step into a narrative older than time, a story whispered by the winds, written in the stars, and carved into the earth itself. And as the first stars appeared above, bright and relentless in the deepening twilight, Hercules felt the pull once more, gentle yet undeniable, and he exhaled, steadying himself, knowing that the next step he took would bind him irrevocably to the path of legend, adventure, and trials beyond imagining, a path from which there was no return, yet one he was born to walk. As Hercules stepped beyond the grove, the landscape seemed to shift subtly beneath his gaze, the rolling hills giving way to jagged cliffs and winding paths carved into the mountains themselves, each step echoing the weight of his destiny and the legacy that had preceded him. For he was no ordinary man, but a demigod whose strength and courage were both a gift and a burden. And now, more than ever, the air around him hummed with the quiet energy of expectation, a force that neither threatened nor beckoned, but simply existed, waiting for him to acknowledge it, to recognize that every footfall, every heartbeat, every breath he took was part of a larger rhythm orchestrated by powers he could feel, but not fully comprehend. The wind grew cooler as he ascended, carrying with it the scent of stone and distant forests, mingled with the faint tang of a river far below, its waters shimmering like liquid silver in the moonlight. And Hercules allowed his senses to drink in the details. For even in times of trial, he understood that awareness was as vital as strength, and the world, in all its subtle whispers and shifting shadows, was speaking to him if he only chose to listen. The path twisted suddenly, revealing a narrow bridge carved from a single slab of rock, suspended over a chasm so deep that the bottom seemed lost in perpetual mist. And Hercules paused at its edge, the weight of the void below pressing against him, not with danger, but with possibility, the realization settling in that every legend he had heard or been told had prepared him for moments exactly like this. Moments where courage alone could not guide him, where wit, intuition, and trust in his own instincts must lead the way. He stepped onto the bridge, feeling the stones solid beneath his feet, each movement deliberate, measured, the rhythm of his breathing syncing with the sway of the wind. And as he crossed, he caught glimpses of shadows moving far below, not threatening creatures, but shapes of memory, echoes of past deeds and victories, specters of trials he had faced, all coalescing into a quiet encouragement, reminding him that he was never truly alone, that the strength of both mortal and divine ran through him, and that every choice he made carried consequences, both immediate and eternal. The moon rose higher, silvering the cliffs in its gentle light, and Hercules felt the pulse beneath the earth intensify, a vibration that seemed almost sentient, guiding him forward as if the very mountains themselves were conspiring to lead him to what awaited. And ahead, carved into the rock face, he saw markings unlike any he had encountered, symbols etched deep into stone with precision and purpose, telling stories older than the temples of Tyrans, recounting feats of gods and heroes alike, moments of creation and destruction woven together into a silent narrative. And though he could not yet decipher every nuance, the meaning was clear. He was to step into this legacy, to carry forward the thread of heroism, courage, and sacrifice. For the path of Hercules was not solely defined by his deeds, but by his willingness to face the unknown with honor and resolve. The wind shifted again, stronger now, tugging at his cloak, and Hercules adjusted his footing, feeling a thrill of anticipation rise alongside the familiar rush of adrenaline that always accompanied a challenge of magnitude. For even as a man marked by fate, he was not immune to the pull of excitement, the stirrings of curiosity, and the hunger for adventure that had driven him from his earliest memories, shaping him into the hero the world would both fear and revere. And yet, beneath the exhilaration, a quiet caution persisted, reminding him that the unknown was not merely an opportunity for glory, but a test of character, resilience, and the very essence of his humanity, tempered by divinity. The bridge ended at the base of a towering cliff, its surface jagged yet inviting, a path winding upward carved by hands unseen, and Hercules began the ascent, each step deliberate, feeling the strain in his muscles, the familiar burn that reminded him of his mortality, yet also the thrill of power, of being capable of feats no ordinary man could endure. The duality of his existence always present, grounding him even as the world seemed to bend in recognition of his presence, acknowledging his role in the unfolding story. And as he climbed, the markings on the rocks grew more intricate, depicting scenes of confrontation and triumph, of wisdom gained through trials, and Hercules traced them with his gaze, absorbing their silent lessons, sensing that the path ahead would demand not only strength and courage, but judgment, patience, and a heart resilient to both joy and sorrow. For every hero's journey, no matter how storied, carried shadows alongside light, and the balance between the two would define the legacy left behind. Hours seemed to pass without notice as he ascended, the moon now high above, casting its silvery glow across the mountains, illuminating the distant valleys and rivers, and Hercules moved with an almost meditative rhythm, each breath syncing with the pulse of the earth, each step a declaration of readiness, until he reached a plateau where the wind died down and the night sky stretched endlessly above, a tapestry of stars both familiar and alien in their patterns. And in the center of the plateau stood a massive stone door, carved with symbols and figures of deities and heroes intertwined, emanating a subtle, hypnotic glow. And Hercules paused, feeling the resonance of the door reverberate through his entire being, a vibration that was at once welcoming and commanding, as if the doorway itself were alive, aware of him, judging his worth, and ready to test his resolve. For the stories etched upon it spoke of those who had tried before and failed, and of those who had succeeded only because they were willing to surrender fear, doubt, and hesitation to the greater purpose that called them forward. And Hercules exhaled, steadying his pulse, raising his hand toward the glowing surface, understanding that stepping through would be more than a passage into a chamber or temple. It would be a passage into destiny, a journey where every muscle, every thought, every ounce of courage would be called upon. And as his fingers brushed the warm stone, a surge of energy rippled through him, linking him to the very essence of heroism itself. And he knew, with a clarity that silenced every lingering thought, that there was no turning back, for the path of Hercules had reached the next chapter, and the story would now unfold with him at its center, facing trials, discoveries, and revelations that would test his strength, his heart, and the core of all that he was destined to become. Hercules stepped through the glowing stone doorway, and the world around him shifted instantly. The familiar hills and cliffs of Tiryns replaced by an expanse that seemed suspended between reality and myth, a realm where light bent in gentle arcs, revealing mountains that shimmered with colors unseen in the mortal world, rivers that flowed like liquid silver through valleys that twisted impossibly, and air thick with the hum of unseen power that vibrated through his bones, reminding him that the trials ahead would demand not only his immense strength, but every ounce of wit, courage, and divine insight he could muster. And as he walked forward, the first steps echoing softly against the smooth, luminous stone floor, he felt the pulse beneath his feet grow stronger, a rhythmic thrum that resonated with the core of his being, as though the very realm itself recognized him as more than a visitor, as more than a mortal man, acknowledging him as a force woven into the fabric of destiny itself. And yet, even amidst the awe-inspiring beauty of this otherworldly place, Hercules sensed the weight of expectation pressing upon him, a silent reminder that every choice, every movement, every glance could determine the course of his journey, shaping the story in ways both subtle and monumental. The air shimmered around him, carrying scents of earth and fire, of ancient forests and hidden waterfalls, mingling with a faint sweetness that reminded him of the warm evenings of his childhood home. And the sound of flowing water echoed through the vast corridors of the realm, a soft melodic counterpoint to the deep vibrating pulse beneath his feet. And Hercules inhaled deeply, letting the rich aromas fill his lungs, grounding him even as his mind raced with anticipation, for the trials to come would demand more than muscle and courage. They would demand clarity, judgment, and an understanding of the forces that moved both gods and men alike. He pressed on, moving through a series of arches carved from the purest stone, each etched with runes and pictographs that seemed to shift subtly as he passed, revealing glimpses of past heroes, battles fought, and lessons learned, as if the realm itself was teaching him, reminding him of the wisdom that strength alone could never provide. And he traced the markings with his gaze, absorbing their silent stories, feeling in his chest a mixture of reverence, excitement, and the faintest twinge of apprehension, for the journey ahead promised both discovery and danger in ways that even he could not yet fully comprehend. As he approached the center of the realm, the pulse intensified, coalescing into a vibrant, undulating sphere of energy suspended in the air, its surface rippling with light and color. And Hercules felt a magnetic pull drawing him closer, a force that was neither threatening nor welcoming, but inevitable. And he understood instinctively that this sphere represented a trial, a test not of brute strength, but of insight, courage, and the harmony of mind and body. and he prepared himself, steadying his breathing, feeling the familiar tension in his muscles and the steady beat of his heart, a rhythm that seemed to match the undulations of the sphere. And with deliberate calm, he extended his hands, allowing his fingertips to brush against the pulsing surface. And the instant contact sent a surge of energy through him, not painful, but invigorating, filling him with visions of landscapes both familiar and strange, of past victories and failures, of choices he had yet to make and paths he had yet to walk. And he realized in that moment that the trial was not merely a test, but a revelation, showing him the threads that connected him to the world, to the gods, and to the legacy he was destined to carry. And though the sheer scale of the revelations threatened to overwhelm him, Hercules centered himself, focusing on the pulse, on the sphere, on the quiet voice within that reminded him of his purpose, his duty, and the strength he had cultivated through years of struggle. And as he allowed that inner calm to merge with the external energy, the sphere expanded, its ripples spreading through the chamber, illuminating every surface with a warm, radiant light that revealed the full extent of the realm. And Hercules understood that what lay ahead would demand everything he had and more. A convergence of strength, courage, insight, and heart. And yet, despite the enormity of the challenge, he felt a profound exhilaration, a thrill born not of recklessness, but of readiness. For he knew that heroes were forged in moments such as this, when the world itself became a crucible of trial, revelation, and transformation. And with that understanding, Hercules took a deep breath, squared his shoulders, and stepped fully into the sphere of energy, letting it envelop him, letting its wisdom and power flow into every fiber of his being. And as the light intensified, he felt himself lifted from the floor, suspended in a gentle embrace of radiance and rhythm, the boundaries of time and space bending around him. And in that transcendent moment, he glimpsed the path ahead, shimmering with challenges and victories, shadows and revelations, a journey that would test him in ways both known and unknowable. And Hercules embraced it fully, the pulse of the realm resonating with his own, a perfect harmony of destiny, power, and courage, as he prepared to face the trials that would define not only his legend, but the very essence of what it meant to be Hercules, son of Zeus, hero of men and gods, and guardian of the stories yet to be written. Hercules emerged from the sphere of radiant energy into a vast hall, carved from stone so smooth it reflected the faint glow of luminous crystals embedded in the walls. And though the air was cool and still, it seemed charged with the weight of countless eyes, as if heroes, gods, and spirits long past were witnessing his every movement, their presence not oppressive, but profoundly reverent. And as he stepped forward, the echoes of his boots mingling with a soft, ethereal hum, he understood that this was the heart of the realm he had entered, the culmination of the trials and lessons that had guided him across mountains, rivers, and mystical landscapes. And here, at last, his destiny awaited in a form both terrifying and magnificent. Ahead, upon a raised dais, stood a colossal figure whose aura radiated authority and judgment, the very air bending around its presence. And Hercules felt an immediate surge of recognition, for though the figure was unfamiliar, it carried the weight of all he had learned, all he had endured, all he had become. And in its eyes shimmered the reflection of his own struggles and victories, magnified and distilled into clarity. And he understood that this encounter was not merely a confrontation, but a revelation, a moment where every choice, every action, Every heartbeat of his life was woven into a tapestry that demanded acknowledgement, courage, and resolve. He took a measured breath, feeling the familiar thrill of anticipation that had accompanied him through every trial. And as he moved closer, the figure spoke, its voice a deep resonance that vibrated through the hall and through Hercules himself, carrying authority, wisdom, and the subtle weight of inevitability. Hercules, son of Zeus, the path you have walked has proven your strength, your courage, and your heart. Yet the final measure is not in deeds alone, but in the wisdom to wield them with justice and compassion. For heroes who conquer only with force fail to leave a legacy, while those who master both power and understanding shape worlds and inspire generations. Hercules nodded, absorbing each word as if it were a physical force, grounding him even as the air shimmered with unseen energy. And he realized in that instant that this was the culmination of everything. The lessons of the mountains, the valleys, the trials within the sphere, and the pulse of the mystical realm itself, all converging to test not merely his strength, but the depth of his character, the resilience of his heart, and the clarity of his purpose. And as the figure gestured toward a massive doorway behind it, adorned with intricate carvings of gods, monsters, and legendary heroes, Hercules understood that passage through this doorway was the ultimate trial, a journey that would demand courage beyond measure, judgment unclouded by fear, and the unwavering resolve to embrace his destiny fully, without hesitation or doubt. And as he approached, the glow from the doorway intensified, casting long, twisting shadows that danced across the hall, reflecting not only the physical space, but the inner landscapes of his mind and soul. And Hercules felt the familiar rhythm of his heartbeat, syncing with the hum of the realm, a perfect harmony that reminded him he was both mortal and divine, both strong and vulnerable, both student and hero. And with a final deep breath, he stepped through the threshold, and the world shifted once more, light bending, air vibrating, space folding in impossible patterns, revealing a series of chambers, each a reflection of a challenge he had faced, a lesson learned, a fear overcome. And as he moved through them, each step deliberate, each glance absorbing the intricate details, he felt the accumulation of his journey solidifying into a profound understanding of himself and the role he was meant to play. For a hero's strength is not measured by the battles fought or the enemies defeated, but by the courage to face the unknown, the wisdom to act with integrity, and the compassion to guide those who cannot protect themselves. And as the final chamber opened, a luminous figure appeared, radiant with power and calm, extending a hand in acknowledgement. And Hercules, feeling the culmination of every trial, every step, every heartbeat resonate within him, reached forward, touching the hand, and in that instant a wave of clarity, strength, and serenity washed over him, harmonizing his mortal and divine essence, sealing his legacy as a hero not only of great deeds, but of enduring wisdom, courage, and heart. And as he exhaled, the hall seemed to dissolve gently into light, the pulses of the mystical realm fading into a soft, sustaining hum. And Hercules stood alone once more, yet profoundly changed, aware that the world he returned to would never be the same. For he carried now not just the power of a demigod, but the understanding of what it truly means to be Hercules. And with a steady gaze, a heart full of resolve, and a spirit tempered by trial, he stepped forward, leaving the realm of legends behind, yet carrying its essence within him, ready to live fully, act wisely, and inspire all who would hear the tale of the hero who embraced destiny, conquered fear, and found the balance between strength and wisdom, courage and compassion, as the first light of dawn began to touch the mountains once more, painting the world in hues of gold and promise, and Hercules walked on, a living testament to the timeless story of heroism that would echo through ages, forever remembered in whispers, songs, and the hearts of those who dared to dream, to act, and to face the extraordinary with unwavering resolve.